Do you remember the first time you ever laid your eyes on Grand Theft Auto 3? What about the first time you actually drove through the streets of Liberty City yourself, experiencing the sights and sounds of everything this world had to offer? How did you find out about the cheats? All weapons and ammo, full health and armor, spawn a tank? Man, the tank. Where were you? When was that? Grand Theft Auto 3 is immortal. It's a piece of art that changed an entire industry. And initially, the people making it had no idea what they had on their hands. From the initial concept stages to the struggles of structuring a world this large that wouldn't collapse on itself, we're about to dive into the blood and guts of it all. This is 6 Stars in Liberty City, a Grand Theft Auto 3 retrospective. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. Before we go any further, I would like to address up front that what you're seeing is indeed footage captured from the definitive edition of Grand Theft Auto 3, a decision I made for your sake and your sake alone. Yes, I've played the original, many times in fact, but it simply hasn't aged well from a visual perspective. Here's some PlayStation 2 footage I captured. To be fair, GTA 3 looked great for its time, but it's a game that looks better in our memories than it does in reality. And to be even more fair, it looked better on our old CRT televisions of that bygone era. The definitive editions of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy launched in a very, very poor state a couple years back, but I can assure you, they're in a much better place now. And I believe using this as our visual representation is better for you, the viewer. Now, if that's a major hang-up for you, that's your call, and I'll see you later. But if you're still here, let's get down to business. And fuck those other guys, right? I'm just kidding. In October of 2001, I was 10, almost 11 years old. Despite the console releasing a year ago, I didn't have a PlayStation 2 of my own yet, so there I was, sitting in a teal, faux leather beanbag chair on the floor in my bedroom, most likely playing WWF SmackDown 2 Know Your Role on my PS1. When I realized it was 7 o'clock, I did what any well-adjusted individual would do in 2001. I shut off my SmackDown video game, grabbed my wrestling action figures, and parked my ass in front of the TV in the living room, turning the channel to the newest episode of WWF SmackDown. It was a sickness, I'm telling you. The whole wrestling thing, it was out of control. I've painted this picture to answer the question I posed to you at the top of this video. That question being, do you remember the first time you laid your eyes on Grand Theft Auto 3? For me, this was it. A commercial break during SmackDown. I couldn't believe when I scrolled down and saw the top comment on this video. I don't know who this guy is, but in this SmackDown plus GTA way, we're linked. Seeing this dude in a sick leather jacket run across the tracks with a train barreling down on him, the cars speeding around and launching through the air, the flamethrower, I was sold. Now obviously whether I was sold or not didn't make a difference, as I didn't have a PS2, as you know. But this was awesome nonetheless. And I knew one thing, I had to play it. And that was the feeling not just from me, but from millions of others. Millions and billions, as a matter of fact. And play it, I would. Look, I know you didn't come here for the history of Ian eventually gets a PS2, so we'll cut to the chase, that's fine. I played the absolute shit out of GTA 3 with my brother, with my friends, man. This was a staple during sleepovers. We'd punch in cheats and go on what we would call rampages. Kill as many people as possible, stay alive as long as possible, rack that wanted level up to 6 stars, and good luck. Now, if this sounds horrible, if this sounds like it's setting a bad example for anybody who might possibly suffer the misfortune of getting their hands on a controller, suck it. Grow up. Yeah, it was all over the news. Grand Theft Auto is terrible for kids. It's a horrendous influence on all mankind. Shut up. It's the same deal as growing up playing Mortal Kombat when I was like 5 years old. My dad told us, this is a game. You're gonna see things in the game that aren't real. And if I see you doing Mortal Kombat or wrestling moves anywhere but the game, we're gonna have a problem. Capiche? It's that simple. Parent your children. Get a brain in your head. Take responsibility for your own actions. Anyway, yeah, rampages are where most of our time would be spent. I would start the story mode here or there, but I'd usually only play far enough that the game would leave me alone and then I could just wreak havoc on my own. This meant that, for years, I experienced about a third of Liberty City, as much of the map is quarantined off until you progress the story to a certain point. Man, what was I doing? I mean, I know I was picking up prostitutes. That's a fact. You get them in the car, you take them to a secluded area, and you watch your health bar expand. At 12, 13 years old, this felt so forbidden. It felt so adult. What an innocent time that was. Okay, if you kill her and take your money back, you can't call it an innocent time anymore. Good lord. The Grand Theft Auto 3 we know and love, the Grand Theft Auto 3 you're seeing on screen right now, this isn't what the game was always meant to be. This was the franchise's first foray into the third dimension, after all. The original GTA looked like this. Its sequel offered much of the same. And initially, this third installment would have been similar. 2.5D, but with an isometric point of view rather than full top-down. Obviously, the concept evolved into full 3D, but you might be having a little bit of deja vu. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know, I feel like I've seen the game you're describing. And you have. I talked about this with Last Stand Media's Colin Moriarty on a recent episode of Sacred Symbols Plus.
Between GTA 2 and 3, there was a GTA 2.5 floating around, which was an isometric GTA set in Miami that most visually represented Sim City.
The 2.5D thing, my first thought was, oh, that could have been really cool. And I'm thinking, like, why did they never revisit that? Because I love the idea. And then the more I thought of it, I was like, I mean, that's kind of Chinatown
That's exactly
Wars.
what I was going to say. Yeah, Chinatown Wars is kind of that.
2009's Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars on the Nintendo DS is essentially what the original pitch for Grand Theft Auto 3 entailed.
There was this rat-a-tat at the door. I was in bed. It was like noon. And there was this fucking, almost like, why? All right, so it ultimately ends up being a FedEx guy, but why do they have to knock like cops? Right?
Oh, yeah, they need you to come to the door.
Yeah,
now.
It's like, holy shit, dude. So anyway, I had two of these.
Many players know that the GTA games are developed by Rockstar, one of the biggest and most successful studios in the history of the industry. But like EA Sports, Rockstar isn't just one team. As a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar itself is an umbrella with several unique studios under its banner. Rockstar Leeds developed the aforementioned Chinatown Wars and Liberty City Stories for handhelds. Rockstar London were the team behind Manhunt 2. Rockstar San Diego are the home of the Red Dead series, so on and so forth. The developers who brought the Grand Theft Auto franchise to life were once called DMA Design. And if you played Body Harvest on the Nintendo 64 or Uniracers on Super Nintendo, hey man, these are Rockstar North games, believe it or not. What I didn't know for a long time, honestly, was that Grand Theft Auto 3 wasn't initially being designed with the PlayStation 2 in mind. The original home for the game was the Sega Dreamcast. This is one of those things that's fun to think about, right? How would the industry be different if Grand Theft Auto and Sega formed the tag team that never was? I love these sorts of hypotheticals. Fun for Rockstar North was the main objective in development. Grand Theft Auto 3 needed to be fun to play. kinetic driving, high-stakes thrills, and a whole closet full of weapons with which the player could raise hell. I think it goes without saying, they nailed it. The story mode, which goes way deeper than I ever thought it did when I was younger, was a distant second, and it shows. I just recently played through this entire game once again. It was my first full run as an adult, really soaking it in as I went from mission to mission, and I found the experience to be super disjointed. I'd be working with Salvatore, driving his wife Maria around to clubs and parties and whatnot, and the next thing I know, Salvatore wants me dead. Maria says I told him we're an item, as if she's cheating on Sal with me, and I'm like, when did that happen? I didn't skip anything. I'm not banging Maria. I'm pretty sure I would remember that. This is where the concept of fun being the main focus comes into play. Obi Vermage, a former Rockstar employee whose tell-all blog was shut down after the company told him to stop sharing his stories, made it clear that many of the missions were thrown around from place to place, handed to the player from any number of characters, some of which die at certain points in the game. So it's easy to see why the order and events might come off a little disconnected or confusing. The entire plot of our main character's girlfriend trying to kill him in the opening cutscene, this whole thing was added at the last second. How do you like that? If you're not into the story mode or going on rampages, nerd, there's plenty more for you to do here in Liberty City. Maybe you're a driver at heart. You want to get the citizens where they need to go. Hop in a taxi cab and make it happen. Even if you're not the one shooting innocents in the streets, they're gonna wind up shot. Driving an ambulance offers an EMT minigame. Commandeer a police cruiser to execute vigilante missions. And I do mean execute. Man, that's true to life, huh? There are races, firefighter missions. Look, I'm telling you, there's a ton to spend your time on. Ammunition shops allow you to pop in and purchase new weapons and ammo. There are 100 hidden packages strewn about the city. And the Easter eggs. My god, the Easter eggs. Classic. Gamers eventually turn their attention to the weirdest shit imaginable. Somebody figured out that shooting the moon with a sniper rifle actually changes the size of the damn thing. Our dude Obi, who I mentioned earlier, revealed that he was the man behind this Easter egg, and it wasn't intended to be a cute little secret at all. There was an ongoing debate in the Rockstar North offices over the size of the moon. Should it be some massive Tim Burton light in the sky, or should it have a smaller, more reasonable, more realistic look? The debate raged on, and Obi created a tool to change the size on command. This tool was the sniper rifle. Time went on, the game went gold, it even hit store shelves, and no one ever decided on which moon should be used in the game. So go grab your copy of GTA 3, shoot the moon with a sniper rifle, and you'll change its size. Congratulations, you are working with a developer's shortcut tool. And that's just one example of the sort of black magic that went into the creation of this game. Have you ever noticed that there are only a few types of cars available at any given time? There are dozens of vehicle types in the game, but looking around, it's like, these are all kind of the same thing. If you've ever wanted an army truck and you can't find any, eventually you grab one and now they're all over the place. Where were you 5 seconds ago? You're not crazy, you're perceptive. The PlayStation 2, as powerful as it was at the time, could only handle so much. The game is showing you so many of the same vehicles moment to moment because it literally can't handle showing you every card in the deck at the same time. The leash tightens further and further the higher your wanted level rises because the game now has to factor in extra police cars, the police trucks, the FBI cruisers, so on and so forth. Try looking around at that point and see how many different cars there are on the street. You can count them on one hand. I feel like it's worth mentioning that back in 2001, I'd never played anything like Grand Theft Auto 3 before. My favorite video game of all time is Resident Evil from 1996. The Spencer Mansion is one of the greatest settings in video game history, for my money, But this is really just a big-ass house. Factor in the lab or the guardhouse, and the look and feel changes a bit, but things are fairly contained. Fast forward a little bit, another favorite of mine is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which is a series I'm trying to do a retrospective on. Sign up over on Patreon and we will unlock this goal. And it's what you might expect. Level by level, goal by goal. What I'm getting at, obviously, is the sheer size and scope of Liberty City. Grand Theft Auto 3's approach to the concept of an open world changed the entire industry. The term sandbox game didn't exist prior to its release, and for good reason. Sure, one could argue titles like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time or Super Mario 64 technically exhibit elements of an open world several years prior, but neither of them offer the variety of GTA 3. Running around on foot, driving cars, cutting through the waves and boats, highways that connect the boroughs, come on. I'm not gonna pull out one of the most overused terms in video game coverage, the living, breathing world, because that's a stretch. This was 2001 after all, and there was still plenty of evolution to come from this, but let's be real. Nobody had shit on Liberty City. Grand Theft Auto 3 is the godfather of the open world sandbox. Even if the story is a little confusing, and it is, it's certainly interesting. All of these loudmouth mobsters are the perfect opposite for our character, who never says a word throughout the entire game. Hell, he doesn't even have a name until Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but that's a bridge we'll cross once we get there. Our nameless, voiceless protagonist is often disrespected and talked down to by these characters, and the voices that deliver these lines are familiar ones. Don Salvatore was played by Frank Vincent, aka Phil Leotardo from The Sopranos.
They must be making spank on that big boat that Curly led you to.
Tony Cipriani is Michael Madsen.
It's on a timer, so if you mess up, there'll be no evidence.
Luigi is voiced by Joe Pantoliano.
Some Diablo scumbag has been pimping his scuzzy bitches in my backyard. Go and take care of things for me.
Detective Ray is Robert Loggia.
Toss that place. That's it. Flush them out and you hunt them down.
These are stars. Stars with recognizable voices. And these performances made the game feel huge. In that same vein, I'd point to the radio stations, which not only feature real-life, licensed music, but come complete with fully original talk shows and commercials as well. It's a shame I can't play any of the music or anything for you. This is YouTube and that's Copyright City. But this video could not be made without mentioning the radio stations. An integral part of the experience. There's no doubt about it. I remember my dad recognizing Frank Vincent's voice and being drawn in. If you've heard my stories about my dad before, you know that he didn't play video games himself, but he'd often ask for the controller if something caught his eye as he walked through the room. Getting him a car he liked and letting him drive around Liberty City was always awesome to see, even if it usually ended with a flipped over vehicle exploding to bits. In fact, that probably made it better. Even for the game's many, many triumphs, it's certainly not without its flaws. And these aren't all necessarily flaws. Some of these are just things I don't like. But let's start with a legit flaw. The checkpoint system during story missions is garbage. Terrible. A story mission consists of an introductory cutscene. Usually you have to grab a car, drive somewhere, sometimes drive to multiple places, and then the action picks up. After a big firefight or a chase, the mission ends and you get paid. If you die at any point during the mission, it could be immediately or right before you're about to land that kill shot, you go all the way back to the beginning of the mission. Watch the cutscene again, asshole. You fucked up. Drive all the way to the destination again, dickhead. You fucked up. Even calling it a checkpoint system is being too kind, as it's really not a checkpoint system at all. Dying a few times on a mission that requires a ton of setup will have you turning off your PS2, I promise you. For something that just annoys me, this one's a double-edged sword. Is it cool that as the story progresses, certain gangs start to hate you through the city? Stepping foot in Chinatown will see the triads fire on you instantly. Is that cool? Yes. Kind of. It feels like my actions have consequences. But it would be nice if they would knock it off, too. I'd like to be able to drive through Chinatown without being shot at for some shit that happened forever ago, you know? Give me a break. I may not love these little tidbits, but at least they made the final cut, right? And making the final cut, I mean, that's unlike GTA 3's online multiplayer, which was a real thing at one point and was cut for the sake of development time.
Rockstar North was originally working on land functionality for GTA 3. This is, I think, amazing. And actually hired 2 people for Vice City specifically to get this functionality working in that game, but couldn't. As a result, San Andreas was given a co-op mode and online play was considered a higher priority.
One of the craziest things I learned in my research was that Microsoft was initially offered full exclusivity for Grand Theft Auto 3, and they passed on the opportunity. Fast forward to the Green brand also passing on the chance to have Spider-Man as an exclusive, and we can officially call these blunders a pattern now, Dan Dans. But not all blunders are created equal. Upon GTA 3's initial E3 appearance, Rockstar thought they shit the bed. They didn't feel as though what they'd shown had garnered any significant interest in the final product. Once October 22nd, 2001 rolled around, though, and they sold 1 billion copies in 24 hours. I'm just kidding. Grand Theft Auto 3 actually didn't sell all that well at first. It did fine enough, but it actually wasn't until the media began to run with how problematic the game was that it really exploded and became the massive hit we know it as today. The reviews were fantastic, with critics, even at the time, recognizing the insanity of the game's scope. GTA 3 would capture dozens of Game of the Year honors and is still recognized as one of the most important video games ever made. Hey, you don't sell over 15 million copies for no reason, right? Grand Theft Auto 3 is a game I can come back to anytime. It's a game I love to drive around in. It's a game I love to commit atrocities in. And maybe above all else, it's a game that mentally puts me on my ass in front of the TV in the living room, watching that newest episode of WWF SmackDown, action figures in hand. Some of you may have retired this game the second Vice City came out, or maybe you held out until San Andreas dropped. But any way you slice it, Grand Theft Auto 3 might just be the skeleton of a perfect video game. Again, flashing back to that Sacred Symbols Plus episode I recorded with Colin Moriarty,
I had begun playing it to just play something, and I had finished it being like, God damn, is that game good? It ended up not being what I remembered. It ended up being so far deeper and much more high quality and much more influential than I really ever gave it credit for.
GTA 3 is a game that'll catch your dad's eye. It's a game that your girlfriend wants to do a few rampages in, even if she doesn't normally play these types of games. GTA 3 is a game that will never, ever fade. And now here's a compilation of insanity for no good reason at all. In October of 2001, Grand Theft Auto 3 took the video game world by storm. Nobody had ever seen anything like the wide-open, sprawling metropolis that was Liberty City. With a deluge of deadly weapons at the player's disposal and a selection of vehicles that constantly kept high-stakes races and police chases feeling fresh, it seemed like there was nothing GTA 3 couldn't do. How the hell were developer Rockstar North supposed to top this, right? What could they possibly do to make the next game bigger and better? Well, they didn't have very long to figure it out. Another Grand Theft Auto game was scheduled to hit store shelves just 1 year after GTA 3, which is unbelievable in hindsight. I can't imagine how that felt in the moment. The most simple solution would have been to go the Madden route. Let's basically keep everything the same. We'll just update the look and stats of the cars a little bit, right? Keep the same setting, just sprinkle a few more NPCs on the street, drop a few new billboards in on the highways. They probably could have gotten away with it too, but obviously that's not what happened. The entirety of Liberty City would be left behind, as would every single character established in the previous game. The clock would turn back from modern day to the late 1980s. A syringe full of neon was injected straight into the setting's veins, overdosing this brand new world with a radiance unlike anything we'd experienced prior. Rockstar North were looking to blow you away all over again with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Today we dive deep into the music, the missions, the blood, and beyond. This is 6 stars in Vice City, a Grand Theft Auto retrospective. Creating a sequel to a gigantically successful video game is a tall order in and of itself, and when you've only got a year to do it, the pressure is really on. That's the sort of pressure that turns coal into diamonds. But that wasn't always the goal. A big, crazy sequel is what Vice City became by the time it released, but production began as a simple add-on to Grand Theft Auto 3. A mission pack, a map expansion, that sort of thing. As I stated in the GTA 3 video, that game wasn't a massive success from day one. It wasn't until the media started calling Liberty City and its denizens problematic that the public really started buying the game in droves. It's funny how that works, right? That was nearly 6 months after the title had launched, and when the sales began stacking up higher than anyone at Rockstar North had imagined, plans changed. This little add-on needed to be something different. It needed to be bigger. It needed to be its own thing entirely. That's when the switch flipped. Development on the now standalone Grand Theft Auto Vice City ramped up. What's funny is that even before we knew what to expect, Rockstar was practically slapping us in the face with the next move, as Vice City, if you didn't know it, is Miami, in the same way that Liberty City is New York City. The hints were there, and this is a practice the developer has become infamous for over time. What we couldn't possibly have expected, though, was that this new story would have us going back to the past. This time, players take control of Tommy Vercetti, a man who isn't exactly on the straight and narrow. And by that I mean he just wrapped a 15-year stint in prison for murder. What does a guy like Tommy do with his newfound freedom, right? Trying to get into construction? Maybe go back to school? Nah, he's headed directly into the drug business. Vice City is a market that isn't cornered by any specific crew, and Tommy falls in line with Sonny Forelli, a man who is, you guessed it, looking to corner that market. When shit immediately hits the fan, it all opens up, introducing Tommy to madmen like Colonel Cortez, Ricardo Diaz, Ken Rosenberg, Lance Vance, goddamn Love Fist. Man, everything gets out of hand almost immediately. Very fitting for the time period. It's 1986. This was the era where musicians, movie producers, everybody was piling handfuls of cocaine up their nose and throwing shit like Dr. Detroit, the Blues Brothers, and Maximum Overdrive at you like, look, isn't this awesome? Isn't this great? Wait, it isn't? Fuck it, let's buy a boat and open a hardware store. We're killing hundreds of people in broad daylight, smuggling blows, stealing cars, and it's all kind of funny. Yeah, it is. It's lighthearted. The game's executive producer, Sam Hauser, called the mid to late 80s the grooviest era of crime because it didn't even feel like it was a crime. It was a totally topsy-turvy, back-to-front period of time. Now, I wasn't there. I was born in 1990. And if I was alive, I can assure you I would not have been involved in the drug running business, but I can't help but feel like he's right. Are there any retired runners in the comments? Any former cocaine kingpins who can confirm or deny his claims? Let me know. So you've seen the graphics, you've met a few of the characters, we know about the insane premise that this was all created inside of 1 year. Did I happen to mention that half of the dev team were working on porting GTA 3 to PC for the first 6 months of Vice City's production? No? Well, add that on too. Let's talk about the gameplay. What is different? How many things could possibly be altered in such a short amount of time? Well, plenty of things, actually. Driving feels completely different. For one, I find that every single car feels much heavier here in Vice City. If you really put the pedal to the floor and get some speed, your brakes act as merely a suggestion to slow down, rather than delivering a quick and sudden halt. Coming from the previous game straight into Vice City for these retrospectives, it was quite an adjustment. At first I thought I hated these new driving controls, but I settled in. I've even begun to wonder if this was done on purpose to convey how differently automobiles were built between 1986 and 2001. Back in the 80s, 78.4% of the average car's curb weight was made up of steel. Today, that number has dropped below 65%. I'm no expert, but I'd imagine that makes a pretty big difference. But the weight and feel of the cars isn't the only thing that's changed when it comes to driving. Say hello to motorcycles. Hell yeah, dude. Motorcycles were my #1 want from GTA 3. And here they are. Harley-style bikes with the big-ass handlebars, ninjas with that sports bike speed and handling, little mopeds that you might see on a college campus, even dirt bikes. Somebody call Travis Pastrana. I cannot begin to explain how much time I spent in my youth trying to land a backflip on one of these bikes. I tried every model there is, I visited so many different stunt sites and ramps, all for nothing. If you get in the comments and tell me you landed a backflip, I do not believe you. Provide footage of the flip or don't bother saying anything.
Instructor who wouldn't get drafted by the local football. Out now on Beta and VHS. Remember to
Ay, cuidado, I'm walking!
What's really funny is that I stumbled upon these forum posts from 20 years ago where players who had just purchased the game were dying to land a backflip. They were discussing whether or not it was possible. A moment in time, preserved for all to see. The internet feels like a museum sometimes, doesn't it? You know what really belongs in a museum? This chainsaw. Yeah, dude, a chainsaw! Brand new melee weapons like the meat cleaver and katana added a whole new layer to the concept of rampages, man. The story missions feature much more variety as well, including... Wait, did I go this long without talking about the helicopters and airplanes? Oh man. Okay, motorcycles might not have been my #1 want from GTA 3, I think they were #2. Because what I really wanted to do in a city that large was fly. Looking down on everything, the lights of the skyscrapers, the cars moving through the streets like the blood in a city's veins. Vice City has helicopters and airplanes, and goddamn, piloting one of these is indeed as cool as it sounds. The planes are still a bit of a tease, as this Sea Skimmer is the only flyable model in the game. We can break into the airport and catch a glimpse of a commercial jet, even a smaller private plane, but neither of them are interactable in any way. Maybe next time. But hey, I wasn't complaining. It may not be perfect, but I got what I wanted. The story even features missions where we take control of RC choppers and airplanes, dropping bombs and blowing shit up. How goofy is this? In revisiting the prior game, I found the collection of funds to be largely pointless. Each mission pays out a set amount of cash and we can use it to purchase guns and armor at the ammunition shops, but what else was there to do with the money, really? The answer was not a whole lot. Here in Vice City, that has changed. The options for different buyable outfits has vastly improved. There are more options in the ammunition shops, and above all else, we can purchase property now. Strip clubs like the Pole Position or the Malibu will run you between $30,000 and $120,000. Interglobal Studios will cost you $60K. Kaufman Cabs is $40,000. And the best part is that these properties come with their own line of missions to complete. Finishing the set means the business will make money in the background for you. Buying the strip club specifically is my girlfriend's favorite part of the entire Vice City package. Why? Because once she's the owner, she can get inside without issue. Once she's inside, she pulls out a rocket launcher and murders every single living soul in the building. This is a rampage of epic proportions, and it can be repeated over and over again. Whether that's good for business or not is on her. I told you, this is her save file, not mine. And if we were talking about anything but Grand Theft Auto, I'd be worried. But in Vice City? Hey, that's just the name of the game. Between its voice cast and soundtrack, Grand Theft Auto 3 felt big time. It felt legit. It felt like a movie. Once again, this is an area where Vice City shines even brighter. Madman legends like Gary Busey and Burt Reynolds join the insanely hot Fairuza Balk and the iconic Danny Trejo on the cast. And that's before we even mention that Tommy Vercetti, our star of the show, is voiced by the late, great Ray Liotta. I love Ray Liotta. He stars in some of my favorite movies. But his experience on and with Grand Theft Auto could have been better. He made no bones about the fact that he was not into video games at all.
They asked me and I didn't know anything about it. I'm not a gamer. I've never even played Grand Theft Auto. I have no idea. I know what the object is because I kept saying, get the fuck out of the car. Yeah. Get the hell out of here. And all I do is curse and call people whores, and it's just brutal.
Classic game.
And later openly stated that he wasn't happy with his pay. Not exactly an ideal scenario when your star is bad-mouthing the company, but hey, what can you do? If you're Rockstar, you can just stop hiring big celebrities, I guess. Hey, who did the voices of the main characters in their later games? Exactly, see? Music-wise, man, this was 1986. I'm not trying to be a boner for the past or anything, but to pretend the radio stations weren't on fire here in Vice City would be criminally dishonest. I'm gonna get real dangerous again monetization-wise, but I've gotta risk it to give you the best video possible. Are you kidding me with this soundtrack? Driving through the neon streets with Billie Jean or Out of Touch blasting out of your convertible? Jeez, man, there's really not much that can match it. I'd like to think that the developers actually did this in real life while they were gathering research for the game, as Rockstar sent the team on an all-expenses-paid trip to Miami in order to get a feel for the city. Pretty sweet gig, right? I'll sign up for that. I don't know how to make a video game or anything, but I'll go on a free trip and come up with a few ideas. Any takers? Does anybody want to send me anywhere? No? Nah, that's alright. I don't really want to go anywhere anyway. Update! While writing this retrospective, I bought the book Jacked, The Outlaw Story of Grand Theft Auto by David Kushner to further my research, and I can now confirm that the team did indeed drive around Miami, cycling through songs with the top down in order to determine which tracks truly fit the mold. Again, I'm available. If anyone needs any field research of this kind handled in a timely manner, you know how to get a hold of me. As you might imagine, the annoying, incessant badgering of the world's greatest protectors ramped up as this new GTA title gained traction. Infamous activist and anti-video game personality, Jack Thompson's eyes once again lit up, this time like a neon sign on the Vice City Strip. Thompson, who had brought the legal battle to Rockstar before, this time attempted to take the fight to retailers over the illegal selling of sexually explicit material to minors. That material being Grand Theft Auto Vice City. This went nowhere as there was no law against selling M-rated games to consumers under the age of 17 at the time. You'd think he would have known that. I wanted to call Thompson an attorney, but I can't, seeing as though he was disbarred by the Supreme Court of Florida over a litany of issues including 31 different lawyerly violations. Inappropriate conduct, accusing judges of being involved in the fixing of cases that he lost, so on and so forth. He admits zero responsibility and expresses no regret over his actions, instead claiming that his disbarring was an inside job in order to steal his relevance. Later, in that same interview with The Verge, Thompson confirms that he enjoys being the center of attention. Shocking, right? By the way, Thompson's disbarring was made official as he headed a case against who? Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto. Poor little Jack Thompson. I don't even like talking about him, but his ego-driven crusade to control everything that you and I enjoy, from video games to music to movies, ultimately ending in his own embarrassing collapse, is quite entertaining, I must say. What a bozo. It goes without saying, the immortal pastime of taking turns going on ridiculous killing sprees has somehow gotten even better. Now, the police don't simply chase you and crash into you, they're much smarter this time. Mess around for too long and they'll set up a blockade, tossing spike strips down to flatten your tires and completely ruin your vehicle. This is so cool. They can pop your tires with gunfire as well. It's extremely frustrating during story missions, but that doesn't mean it isn't awesome.
Oh, we've worked through it.
There are many more interiors here in Vice City. Head inside a fast food joint, enter a mansion, maybe the movie studio complete with the lot where the moon landing was staged? Whoops, maybe we weren't supposed to see this. My favorite spot is in the North Point Mall. Everybody in here is prey, and luckily for us, they continue to spawn for endless insanity. I mentioned in the GTA 3 retrospective that my friends and I called these killing sprees rampages. Well, maybe great minds really do think alike, as Rockstar have included rampage mini-games here in Vice City. With a time limit and a murder goal, these can be a blood-soaked blast. The team at Rockstar North, in just 1 year, had somehow done the unthinkable. They'd taken their previous project, a game that turned the entire industry upside down and inspired hundreds of copycats, and they'd topped it. Seriously, Vice City is better than GTA 3 in every way. Across the board, in all categories, Vice City clears. When the reviews came in, the scores were higher. When the sales started to stack up, they were bigger. Vice City would go on to become the best-selling video game of 2002, moving nearly 18 million copies. The devs at Rockstar worked their asses off, putting in 70-hour work weeks when the rubber met the road, and their dedication paid off. After this game dropped, they were buying houses. They were popping champagne and throwing parties, reveling in their hard-earned success. For my money, Grand Theft Auto Vice City is one of the best games ever made. Now, it has obviously been outdone in the production department. There are games that play better today too, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that you can hand the controller to anybody, and they're gonna have the best time. Your girlfriend, your dad, your buddy who doesn't play video games very often, your dog. Literally anyone can have fun with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I asked my girlfriend why she prefers Vice City to Grand Theft Auto 5, to which she responded, Vice City is easier for me to play. She loves Animal Crossing. She's great at Tetris. Her worlds in The Sims are insane. But she's not going to pick up a controller and beat BioShock on the hardest difficulty. Not all gamers take to today's games like they're nothing, you know? And that is what I'm talking about. Vice City was made to last. And today, over 20 years later, it still stands tall. And now, for no reason at all, here's a compilation of carnage. Not everybody is cut out for the life of a gangster. The money, the drugs, and the violence that comes along with them, it's not a pretty scene, despite what the movies and music might tell you. This is the lesson Carl C.J. Johnson learned all too well. He left the hood, overwhelmed and afraid of what might become of him if he were to remain circling the vortex of the thug life. But when his mother was killed, an innocent victim caught in the crossfire of gang violence, he was sucked back in. And this time, the pull of the vortex was stronger. In no time flat, CJ's involved with dirty cops. He's running drive-by shootings and executing the targets of high-paying, government-connected bigwigs. Carl Johnson, whether he liked it or not, was right back where he started. This is the story of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Oh shit, here we go again.
And Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is exactly what we'll be talking about today. The production, the gameplay, the controversies, the lasting legacy, all of it. You know the deal. You know how I do things around here. So get ready to relive some of your favorite gaming memories deep in the heart of San Andreas. And yes, the footage I've captured is from the definitive edition, simply for the sake of clean presentation. I said this in my GTA 3 video, but I'll reiterate it here. These definitive editions launched in terrible shape, for sure, but they've been greatly improved in the years since, and now I would recommend these versions wholeheartedly. I am speaking from experience on how good they are because I've literally played through all three of them. I know what I'm talking about. The original is a classic. There's no doubt about it. We all know it. We all love it. I'm not saying these new versions are better. I just use them here for the sake of appearance. If you're upset that this video isn't going to feature ghosted 480p capture from a shoot PS2, I don't know what to tell you, but that's not what I've done here, so I'll see you later. If you can handle that I captured from the definitive editions and you're still here, I don't. Let's get through the break and we'll get down to business.
How's that sound, partner? Sound like we got a deal then.
The success of 2001's Grand Theft Auto 3 took developer Rockstar North and parent company Take-Two Interactive by surprise. They knew they had something special with GTA 3, but the level of massive mainstream success the game garnered was not on the first print of their internal bingo card. Immediately after the release of the third installment, development began on the next entry in the franchise, Vice City. Bigger, better, and bolder in every way, Vice City was somehow created from stem to stern and shipped to retailers inside of 1 year. Think about that in today's landscape, where the time between AAA sequels is averaging... You know what? That's another conversation for another time. Vice City was another blockbuster, but with such a short amount of time to work, it did not reach the heights Rockstar were shooting for in terms of innovation. Yes, we can now purchase property, and we had motorcycles and flying vehicles, but internally these were looked at as incremental steps forward. They weren't big enough. I mean, I loved these additions. I'm sure you did too, but we're not the ones making the games. The developers, those in the trenches, wanted more. With this next game, we were going to get more innovation because they were going to get more time to create. And by more time to create, I'm saying Rockstar North were given 2 years for production rather than just 1. Again, it's insane. Imagine putting together something as gigantic as Grand Theft Auto San Andreas inside of just 2 years. But this was the industry at the time. This was the game. This is what legends were made from. Now, were the working conditions a little extreme? Yes, they were. Several members of the team straight up quit because they couldn't handle it. Rockstar North hired private chefs to work on site in the studio to keep the team fueled with good food. And while that sounds great, what that really means is that you are not taking a break for lunch. You are not going home to have dinner with your family. There are stories out there about 17-hour workdays. There are stories about sleeping in the studio, waking up, going back to your desk, and going right back to work. Now, is that healthy? Not really. Do I want to sign up for that? Not particularly. But that is what Rockstar North signed up for, and they will go down in history because of it. Look, I respect everybody who quit because they were like, this isn't what I want to do. I respect that. I respect you drawing that line and going to find something else to do. But I also really respect the people who went, all right, let's fucking go to work. That's not what everybody wants to hear, and you don't have to like it, but that's how masterpieces are made. That extra dev time didn't go to waste, that's for damn sure. In 2001, we thought GTA 3 was huge. In 2002, Vice City felt even bigger. San Andreas is nearly 5 times the size of Vice City. We've got 3 distinct cities here in San Andreas, all on one map, drivable from one end to the other without a single loading screen to be found. This was definitely impressive back in 2004, but looking at it today, over 20 years later, every once in a while one of these dates catches me off guard. But it's true, we were playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas 21 years ago. Oh boy. Anyway, yeah, coming back and really looking at this 21 years later, I think it's even more mind-blowing now. I appreciate it more now, that's for sure. I mentioned the black magic Rockstar North put into practice back during the development of Grand Theft Auto 3, literally placing asset files as close together as possible on the disk so the laser wouldn't have to travel as far to find and load them in as we drove around. Think about the blood sacrifices that must have been made to keep San Andreas afloat. Having all 3 cities accessible at any given time was actually a big issue behind the scenes, probably because of how taxing it would be to not only get this up and running, but keep it up and running without the fear of collapse. It was a back and forth struggle, with one side angling to have the city separated, reachable only by fast travel, but as we know, that side lost. And I'm glad they did, man. But let's zoom in. Let's get specific. We start off in Los Santos, where gang activity is at an all-time high. CJ's boys of the Grove Street families hold it down, decked out in green. The Ballas rock the purple. Los Santos Vagos are a Mexican gang, recognizable for their yellow attire. Barrios Los Aztecas keep the turquoise out front. Taking control of new hoods through gang warfare is a key facet of the Los Santos experience, and gaining ground isn't the end of the line. Rival gangs will come for what's yours, and it's on you to turn them away. When you see the enemy's colors tagged on a wall, you have to take that space back. Punk-ass bitches. From Los Santos, it's out to the countryside. Whetstone, Flint County, there are several little towns out here. What they've all got in common is space. Dirt roads, tractors, this sort of open-air greenery with tall trees and mountains that take minutes to ascend, and you're going to need the right kind of vehicle to do it. This is a first for the series. I'm sure there are those that find these areas to be empty or barren, but no sir. I love this section of the map. San Fierro is our next stop, and this is where we're back to that city life. Gorgeous, familiar-looking bridges carry us over the water. The freeways feel real enough that driving fast and letting loose here is therapeutic for anyone who's ever had to deal with bumper-to-bumper traffic. If you couldn't tell from the cable cars and steep, multi-tiered roads, San Fierro is our stand-in for San Francisco. Full house-looking ass neighborhoods. Bone County is another spot that's not as packed. You can breathe out here. Breathe in that sprawling-ass desert grand enough to house an airplane graveyard. Buy the abandoned airport while you're out here and really get business running. Why not? Las Venturas, as you might imagine upon first glance, is this game's version of Las Vegas. Bright lights, big city atmosphere out here. Head into the casino of your choosing and play any game you like. You into blackjack? How you doing? You like roulette? How you doing? You play poker? How you doing? Slots? How you doing? Las Venturas is a great place to get into trouble, and some of the missions here, like driving around town with a guy strapped to the hood of the car to scare him into talking, is so much fun. There are tons of corners to dig into across this map. I can't shine a light on all of them, obviously, but I wanted to try and give the main areas their flowers. This is an expansive world, bigger than many of the open worlds we see even on the consoles of today, and none of it, in my mind, feels like wasted space. One thing I've shied away from throughout my Grand Theft Auto retrospectives is going play-by-play through the stories of the games, and I'm not about to switch things up here. Personally, my main draw to Grand Theft Auto has never been the beat-for-beat chapters of the story. CJ comes back into town, and Frank Tenpenny's a crooked cop, and he's got CJ doing all of his dirty work. Not all of CJ's boys in the Grove Street families are on the up and up. Some of them have to be dealt with. Oh shit, here we go again. You know all the beats, right? That's not what we're here for. We don't have to go through all this, right? I would like to continue focusing on what's new here in San Andreas. I mean, do you remember how excited I was to have that shitty little sea skimmer plane in Vice City? What do you think about a fucking attack chopper? Machine guns and rockets, man. Who's better than me? There are regular news-style helicopters, too, if you're not looking to wreak the havoc of an Avengers-level threat. And keeping with aviation, we've got new prop planes to skim around in. And then there's the big boy, a goddamn 747 full-on commercial-sized jet. These are unwieldy, they're huge, and they're extremely fun to abandon, letting them fall into the ocean while we parachute to safety. Hey, remember the opening of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie when they parachuted in with the Red Hot Chili Peppers blasting in the background? Man, I'm so grateful to have been a kid in the 90s. Stealing an aircraft and flying around the city, only for the military to send fighter jets with heat-seeking missiles to blow us out of the sky like Jack Skellington on Christmas night. This was a game in and of itself. My favorite rampages all ended with a "come and get me" fought in the sky like this was Top Gun or something. And I mean, usually I would bust out the jetpack cheat to really bring the water to a boil before heading to the airport. What a nuisance I was on these digital cops and civilians, man. This was supervillain shit, I know that. And if you want a fighter jet of your own, you can have one. They're called Hydras. There, do your worst. Did I enjoy running these farmers over and squirting the viscera of their shredded bodies out the back of this hay baler? Yes, I did. I mean, I think this is a hay baler. I don't know what this thing is. It might as well be a human juicer when I'm behind the wheel. Swimming has finally been added to Grand Theft Auto, and not only can we kick around up top, you better believe we're diving down into the depths. There's some weird, wild stuff down here, man. Keep your eyes peeled. Or just get out of the water. What are you, a fucking fish? Don't try and steal anyone's boat, though. There are no rules or laws out here on the water in San Andreas. This is from a Twitch stream I did the other week.
Yo. Whoa, dude. What in tarnation? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the? Hold on, yo. Chill out, man. Hold on. Whoa!
If splashing around the sea isn't really the move for you, maybe you should look into the new stealth system. Sneak up behind people and get rid of them in brutal fashion. Rockstar North implemented stealth late in the development cycle, and this was a manhunt insert. Like, hey, we're doing this on the other game, we should do it here too. And it helps that the entire manhunt team, halfway through production on San Andreas, came over to assist in pushing it over the finish line. One new feature I haven't touched on yet, which is funny because it is inarguably the biggest addition to the franchise yet up to this point, are the RPG elements. Maybe you've noticed that CJ has changed outfits and appearances several times throughout the footage you've seen. I did that. I changed his outfits. And you know what? Anyone with any fashion sense could probably tell that I was the one choosing his clothing. Look at me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I wore this exact outfit in 2017 during the history of SmackDown. Giving me the keys to a cool black guy's wardrobe is like hiring Jeff Hardy to be your safety advisor. You're not gonna get good advice. I am not the man for that job. The ability to drive up to a store, obviously in a legally acquired and legitimately licensed vehicle, being able to walk inside and shop for new pants and shirts and hats and watches. I don't know about you, but I was dying for this type of customization to come to Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, Vice City allowed for different suits here and there, but this is a whole nother level. Head to the barber shop and get a new look up top. Why blonde cornrows? I don't know, man. I think my mindset was like, CJ's working with bigger players now. He's in a bigger city. Maybe he's getting high on his own supply. Maybe he's a little full of his own shit, you know? This jacket was expensive. I was adding a little garnish, some extra spice to his character, visual embellishment of my own design. And that, at its core, is exactly what Rockstar were hoping for. By handing CJ over to us in full, his closet full of clothing, his garage full of cars, his very body to shape to our desired specifications, they wanted us to feel as though we were a part of the story. I've never in my life run a CJ that wasn't in ridiculous physical condition. You can have a big fat fuck CJ if you want. Take him to fast food joints and don't have him run around a whole lot. You can do that. Or you can take him to the gym, have him bust his ass and get ripped like Bobby Lashley. Look, I don't want my CJ in the game to be a big fat fuck. I can do that in real life. I have done it for long enough. Right now, I am down 56 pounds, how you doing, and I feel pretty good. I'm never going to look like Bobby Lashley, obviously, because my shoulders aren't wide enough. But I also don't have to look like fat fuck CJ. That's my point here. You know what's really funny is that super late in the game, the QA testers actually discovered that getting too fat can actually break the game. There are jumps CJ needs to make in certain story missions. There are fences he needs to climb. And there was a point where you could get literally too fat to hit the spots properly. That is so funny, dude. We can hit different gyms around the map and learn new forms of hand-to-hand combat. There are, of course, new weapons to blast off with, each of which comes with their own skill meter that affects your accuracy. Even driving has been adjusted. This is the best driving has felt yet in any GTA game. I'm not going to get into the weight of the vehicles and the rate of acceleration. It just feels good, alright? Having the ability to step into CJ's shoes made San Andreas, at least for me, easily the best Grand Theft Auto game yet. I liked being involved. I liked feeling like I was a part of the story. And if something went sideways, it wasn't just Tommy Vercetti's ass on the line. It was my ass. When I was running missions and getting paid in respect, it started to piss me off. I can't buy property with respect. Can I? No, I can't. The conversion rate on respect is piss poor, apparently. I need cash, Rockstar. Eventually, the cash does start rolling in. Big time. Your boys at the garage will tell you to straight up buy a dealership, and it's like, okay. Torino will send you out to the abandoned airstrip and say, buy it, and we show up with cash in hand like, yeah, this is my airport now. This shit rules. You find yourself getting caught up in the game. And I don't mean San Andreas on PlayStation 2. I mean the drugs and the violence and the high-octane thug life shit on the streets. You want more and more. And I mean the digital streets, by the way. I'm not cut out for that in real life. Does this look like a gangster to you? I don't think so. I look like a bad magician who made a bunch of laundry detergent disappear up his nose and fell out of a moving vehicle driving along a gravel road. And me being nothing like CJ, nothing like a guy from the hood of Los Angeles, not an African-American man, but stepping into the shoes of one, raised alarms for some. We all know Grand Theft Auto is no stranger to controversy. With GTA 3, it was violence in general. With Vice City, it was the accusation of selling explicit materials to minors. With San Andreas, one might think it would have been racism, and some did make that case. The case of, why does the first black protagonist have to be a thug? Or, is this what black people are to you? That sort of thing. Rockstar co-founder and current president, Sam Houser, spoke to the contrary, pointing out that, in 2004, there weren't too many games on shelves with black protagonists at all, and that he was proud to put that foot forward. He can be quoted as saying that anyone who had a problem with GTA featuring a black star, he didn't want your business anyway. And to be clear, Rockstar were not deaf to the possible criticisms of racial stereotypes coming their way. They enlisted the advice and assistance of the Congressional Black Caucus as a second pair of eyes during development. I read in the wonderful book, Jacked, the Outlaw Story of Grand Theft Auto by David Kushner, that there were even members of Rockstar North who quit over the game's direction and depiction of people of color. They weren't comfortable with it, and yeah, even people on the inside felt as though it was a confirmation of and highlight over harmful stereotypes. Everyone's going to have their take, you know? I'm not about to tell anyone how to think or feel, especially as a white guy in a conversation around depictions of black characters and how they may or may not be harmful. My input doesn't mean much there, but all in all, this topic in general wasn't really what caught fire this time. For better or worse, the accusations of racism were cast into the background. The real focus was on something else. Now, there's not a lot I can show or even say about this portion of the video because YouTube is extremely strict about this sort of thing, even just conversationally, so I'm going to try to keep this quick and concise. We all remember the hot coffee controversy, right? Look, Rockstar Games wanted to include mini-games centered around the 2002 TNA wrestling faction Sports Entertainment Extreme. They wanted to include body-slamming minigames where the player would be in control of the bumping and the lifting. After a thorough investigation was held behind the scenes to find out what exactly Rockstar could or couldn't show, the answers came back and they were not what the developers wanted to hear. Basically, every instance of body slamming and bumping was not going to fit under an M for mature rating. They were all going to be hit with AO, adults only, meaning San Andreas legally could not be sold in stores. Rather than cut this content out of the game, what Rockstar decided to do was simply hide it deep in the game's files. These mini-games, for now, were essentially dead. They were gone. And I say for now because the plan was for the PC release of San Andreas to unlock this content. Keeping it simply hidden away rather than fully cut out would allow for a simple patch to put it all right back where it belonged. The problem here is that you cannot submit your game to the ESRB for rating certification and not tell them that there's hidden content in the package. Even if no one is supposed to find it, legally you have to let them know everything your game has so that they can get eyes on it and rate it accordingly. That's not what happened here. Rockstar failed to mention the body slamming and the bumping and the sports entertainment extreme content hidden in San Andreas' files. Hackers, as they do, found the content, and they told their friends about it, and their friends went online, and the next thing we knew, it's all over the news. Hot coffee. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is ripped from store shelves. Rockstar has to pay over $20 million in fines, and that's that. And yes, I know it's so lame that I have to dance around this subject on this platform, but it is what it is. I'm not trying to hide any body slamming in my files, and I don't have $20 million to pay in fines, so I couldn't roll like that if I wanted to. You know what blew my mind back in the day? Walking into the little 7-Eleven and seeing the arcade cabinets. Strolling over to them and finding out that they were fully operational was insane. Robbing people's houses while they slept, having to be careful as to not make too much noise, was hilarious. This is Grand Theft Auto. I'm so used to just going guns blazing at a moment's notice that tiptoeing down a hallway like Sylvester is just undeniably funny. I really hate flying the RC aircrafts, though. This mission where we're piloting this little remote-controlled plane and taking out targets, this shit sucks. I don't know how much coverage you guys are expecting regarding the two-player mode, and I don't mean to disappoint both of you who actually enjoyed this, but I have nothing to say, really. This was kind of cool to check out for a minute. My friends and I were like, whoa, 2 players in Grand Theft Auto? But we all sort of agreed that it sucked, and we would much rather do what we had been doing for years. Passing the controller back and forth while taking turns raising hell and going on rampages. I promised just a few minutes ago not to go play by play with the story of San Andreas, and I'm not going to, I swear. But I do feel there is a worthwhile conversation to be had regarding Rockstar's storytelling habits and abilities here in 2004. I'm gonna lead with my big message here, rather than skirt around it and then eventually drop it like a bombshell. I don't really give a fuck about the story in San Andreas, or GTA 3, or Vice City. There's cool shit happening, absolutely. I like meeting these wild characters in public shithouses and crazy multi-million-dollar mansions and hearing whatever sort of bizarre directions they're screaming at me. Yeah. When a GTA mission from this era concludes with a high spot involving burying the foreman at a construction site alive in a grave full of cement while he's locked in a porta potty, that's high-class entertainment. But Grand Theft Auto's stories, even through San Andreas, for me, they're just moments. And sometimes the really cool, interesting, fun moments are spread way too far apart. CJ's relationship with his boys of the Grove Street family, I mean, they barely get along. Several of them don't even treat CJ like a friend. I'm supposed to have my jaw on the floor when I find out that some of them are traitors? Am I supposed to be upset when I've got to kill one of them? I don't think so. I don't care. CJ's argumentative relationship with his sister is garbage. All she does is yell at him, and more often than not, he's yelling back at her. She starts dating a guy from a rival gang. Is that a problem? Not really, we just become boys with that guy. Officer Tenpenny, voiced by the immortal Samuel L. Jackson, he's awesome to have here. He's maybe the one character I was actually attached to and cared about and wanted to take him down with my bare hands. But these other threads, they're just spacers between the fun stuff that I would rather be doing. Am I crazy here? Am I alone? Were you guys really hanging on every word that Zero had to say about his interest in electronics and RC vehicles? Were you really dying to hear the truth share more hippy-dippy bullshit or Jizzy B to... Actually, you know what? Shout out to Jizzy B. Rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. What I'm getting at here is that everything being bigger in San Andreas, there being more of everything here in San Andreas, I feel like it just puts more space between the cool, memorable, fun moments of this game. Here's a funny story for you. I was 13 when San Andreas came out, going on 14. I got this game for Christmas this same year I got the Viva La Bam DVDs. Let me tell you, that was a hell of a year for a little idiot like myself. The funny story comes into play in several places. First of all, I didn't realize until now, I never beat San Andreas. I never really even came all that close back in the day. I saw the whole map. I had seen every corner of all of the cities, but that was because I stole jets and flew around. There were so many moments here in my modern playthrough that made me go, oh, hell yeah, I remember this. And I think that there were an equal amount that made me realize, oh, I'm seeing this for the first time. There's no way I knew that Catalina here was the woman from Grand Theft Auto 3. There's no way I realized that as an idiot kid. Seeing the man himself, geez, this moment will never get old. Hearing how annoying and nasty Catalina was to him, even when they first met though, it does make me feel like Claude is an idiot for getting wrapped up with her in the first place. And look, let me just be extremely clear before anyone leaves a comment saying, how could you not love the story? I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just, look at this. Carl Johnson might as well be named James Bond. Diving through underwater caves, evading the eyes of nearby boats and spotlights, infiltrating a barge and slitting throats, gunfight city, final showdown with a katana-carrying samurai, shooting down incoming SWAT choppers with a rocket launcher atop a desert mountain, flying down the highway on a motorcycle matching the speed of a semi while our boy jumps from the bike into the truck to steal it. And don't get me started on Vertical Bird. We've already talked about fighter jets. Please. It's just so funny to me, man. CJ's a normal dude from the hood, and we're out here on some Pierce Brosnan shit. It's amazing. It's just amazing. These are the memorable moments. Not these. And there's just too much of this. That's all. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas somehow did exactly what Rockstar were hoping it would do. It was bigger than GTA 3. It was bigger than GTA Vice City. By orders of magnitude, it was bigger. We're talking about Game of the Year awards all over the place. We're talking about review scores anybody in the industry would kill for. We're talking about over 21.5 million copies sold. And we're talking about a legacy that is nearly unmatched. Talk to anyone out on the street. Ask them about video games. They know about San Andreas. Actually, don't do that. Leave everybody the fuck alone. Just know, they get it. And you get it. And I get it. Between GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, we've got a window into 3 different decades. 3 different decades of guns, gore, vehicles, violence, crime, crashing, madness, and more. In just 4 years' time, Rockstar delivered to us 3 of the most memorable video games ever made. And somehow, in the years to come, Grand Theft Auto would go on to become even bigger, in every sense of the word. A retrospective on GTA 4 is coming, but that's another conversation for another time. And now, for no discernible reason whatsoever, I leave you with a compilation of carnage.